Good morning.
Morning.
Welcome to this historic press event, one in which the Governor Wolf, our legislative sponsors, advocates, and stakeholders are going to announce legislation that's going to strengthen small, diverse, and veteran-owned businesses throughout the Commonwealth. And without any further delay, I'm going to ask the Governor Wolf if he would come forward to announce this great legislation. Thank you.
So thank you very much, Deputy Secretary Kirkland. Thank you for that introduction. Thanks to everybody for joining us today. I am proud to stand here with a bipartisan group of legislators to unveil our plan to do a better job supporting small, diverse, and veteran-owned businesses in Pennsylvania. The free market does not work optimally if some people are shut out of that market. That's just a fact. A system that only allows the known and the familiar faces to succeed is a system that misses out on its best chance to grow, to thrive, and to innovate. We cannot allow our economy to ignore one of Pennsylvania's most important assets, and that is our diversity. And that's why my administration has worked so hard to restore and to broaden the Commonwealth's emphasis on diversity, inclusion, and fairness. Because if we want a level economic playing field, we need to make sure everyone has a fair shot. To do that, we need to take action to lower the barriers that our small, our diverse business community faces here in the Commonwealth. In the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic, this is more important than ever. Small businesses, as all businesses, were hit very hard by the pandemic, which is why my administration directed $225 million to small businesses through the COVID-19 Relief Statewide Small Business Assistance Program. More than 10,000 small businesses received grants through that program, half of which went to historically disadvantaged businesses. The point is, Pennsylvania's small business owners work hard. They are leaders and they're entrepreneurs. They're community-focused employers. They drive our economy. Small business owners deserve our support, and not just in the wake of a once-in-a-100-year pandemic, but at all times. Throughout my term in office, I have been a staunch supporter of small, diverse, and veteran-owned businesses in Pennsylvania. In 2015, I signed an executive order to make sure that the advantages inherent in our small and diverse businesses were better recognized during state contracting. I created the Advisory Council on Diversity, Inclusion, and Small Business Opportunities. I strengthened the Bureau of Diversity, DSBO, Inclusion and Small Businesses Opportunities, DSBO again, at the Department of General Services, and you'll hear more about that in just a minute from the Secretary. And I called for changes to improve the opportunities for small and diverse businesses in state government contracting and in the Commonwealth's economy. In 2018, Pennsylvania concluded our first ever comprehensive disparity study, and George Burrell is here to talk about, well, you're not going to talk about it, but you can at least note that we did that, and I want to thank you for your leadership, that study included recommendations to improve participation of small, diverse businesses and veteran-owned businesses in state contracting. And my administration acted on those recommendations. We established the most aggressive small, diverse business goals ever implemented in the Commonwealth for Commonwealth executive agencies, those executive branch agencies under my direction. And over the past several years, the Commonwealth has in fact increased the opportunities open to small, diverse, and veteran-owned businesses in Pennsylvania. From 2017 to 2019, in 2 years, the percentage of Commonwealth spend that went to small, diverse, and veteran businesses increased from 7.6% to 17.9%. But to ensure that those opportunities for small businesses and that success continue, we need to pass legislation to update the law, the executive order. The Commonwealth must continue to do its part to support small, diverse, and veteran-owned businesses in Pennsylvania, and that means we need to pass the important legislation that my colleagues in the Senate are introducing today. I want to thank Senators both Hughes and Bartolotta, and to Representatives Wheatley and Bullock, Jake, Yeah. Yeah, how do I mention that? For co-sponsoring this legislation, and just for your overall support for small and diverse businesses in Pennsylvania. I know that by working together, we can ensure their future success. Now I'm going to turn this over to Secretary of Department of General Services, Kurt Topper. Secretary Topper.
Thank you, Governor. I'd like to acknowledge Governor Wolf, Senator Hughes, Senator Bartolotta, Representative Wheatley, Representative Bullock, especially Deputy Secretary for Diversity, Inclusion, and Small Business Opportunities, Carrie Kirkland, all the other legislators who are joining us here today. And I want to recognize George Burrell, who's been a force of nature on the Governor's Advisory Council here for Diversity, Inclusion, and Small Business Opportunities. I want to thank you all for your dedication, for your commitment to leveling the playing field here in Pennsylvania for small and small diverse businesses. Ever since the Governor's groundbreaking executive order, we've been committed to working with the Governor's Advisory Council to make meaningful improvements to our contracting system for small, diverse, and veteran-owned businesses. We didn't shy away from conducting an empirical disparity study or from acknowledging its results. And now, even at a time when genuine bipartisanship seems rare, we won't shy away from working with our partners in the legislature to ensure that the progress we've made continues for small businesses in Pennsylvania, no matter who might get elected governor in the future. Since 2015, the Commonwealth has spent more than $2.7 billion with small, diverse, and veteran-owned businesses. And as the governor mentioned, the percentage has recently grown from 7.6% to nearly 18% today. These results didn't happen by accident. They happened because of the governor's leadership and because of the cooperation we've received from all of the agencies under his jurisdiction. They happened because we followed best practices from the private sector and from other state governments. We put more effective programs and policies in place, and they delivered results. And now with this legislation, we can codify those programs and those policies to make sure that the results continue. We can deliver greater certainty and continued progress for the more than 5,000 small, diverse, and veteran-owned businesses who participate in the Commonwealth's procurement system today. So just to close, I want to say that I'm incredibly proud of the success we've had thus far, and I look forward to the hard work that is still ahead of us. I want to thank you, Deputy Secretary Kirkland and Director Lisa Sanford, and your entire team for your incredibly hard work. And I want to thank the members of the Advisory Council for being so very generous with your time, with your expertise, and your recommendations. And finally, thank you again, Governor Wolf, Senator Hughes, and Senator Bartolotta for your leadership with this bill. Thanks. I'm going to turn it now over to Senator Hughes.
Thank you, Secretary. Appreciate you. Opportunity, oversight, and outcomes. Opportunity, oversight, and outcomes. Diversity, Inclusion, and Small Business Opportunity Legislation, Senate Bill 900, which I'm happy to have as my leader on this legislation, working with me on this, Senator Bartolotta, is that opportunity, oversight, and outcomes. That's what this is all about. What you see here is a lot of history and a lot of story, which we won't go into all of the details. But Carrie Kirkland, I must say, thank you for your diligence, for not being so frustrated when the system does not respond, but always grinding it out to make sure that we keep pushing the ball forward. Thank you, Carrie. You and I have been working on this issue when we've had all kinds of responsibilities. And Chair Bullock's going to say when both of us had hair, but, you know. See? And Governor Wolf, Governor Wolf, you and I would be remiss if, and you already mentioned his name, but I'm going to invoke yours to help me mention his as well. No. Representative Wheatley, who has made sure that we stayed the course. Always convening, always talking, always pushing, and helping us to get to this point right now. Jake, thank you, man. Thank you very much. Very much in a Marine kind of way. All right. If I could, you know, there's a hoorah around here somewhere, I think. All right. But in all seriousness, opportunity, oversight, and outcome. I need everyone to think about it from this vantage point. Those three words. What this legislation does, bicameral, bipartisan. What this legislation does is create opportunity. The Secretary discussed that. We have built into this legislation oversight. And we have built into this legislation the desire for outcomes and creating the will and the avenues for outcomes to be achieved. We have learned in a very difficult fashion how important diverse small businesses are over the last 18 months. In stark relief, it's been presented right in front of us how vital they are. And Governor, when Pennsylvania sees an issue and we tackle an issue, we have successes. And we showed that success with our small business grant program, which has now been replicated in other states around the nation, looked at by the White House as a way to go. And now we see this opportunity here in this bill, Senate Bill 900. So all we ask is see the success of this legislation as a way to benefit the entire Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Because when everybody is at the table, everybody does well. When everybody is at the table, everybody does well. The skills and the services that historically have been left out, when they're added into the mix, we all do much better. And that's what Senate Bill 900, the diversity, inclusion, and small business opportunity legislation ultimately does, is to make sure that those businesses who have historically not had an opportunity get an opportunity, that they get to the table, that they're allowed to have to participate and make not just themselves better and their communities better, our communities better, but make the entire Commonwealth of Pennsylvania better. So thank you very much. This is an important moment. Bicameral, bipartisan, leadership from the front office to make this happen. And now if I could bring my colleague, Senator Cameron Bartolotta, to the podium right now so that she can say and make sure that everyone understands that this is a bipartisan effort, that everyone is moving down this path to move this Commonwealth forward. Senator Bartolotta.
Thank you, Senator Hughes. And we've worked together in the past on other legislation too. So, and pulling Pennsylvania out of an economic ditch that was presented to us during the pandemic is not bipartisan. This is an all-hands-on-deck mission, and anything that we can do, Democrat, Republican, Independent, House, Senate, anything, I think all of us need to be behind every effort that achieves that goal. So good morning, I am State Senator Cameron Bartolotta. I represent the 46th Senatorial District, which is the cornerstone of the Keystone State, Greene County, portions of Washington and Beaver counties. Small businesses really truly are the lifeblood of our economy, and we have the responsibility to ensure that they're given the attention that they deserve. These businesses represent not just an integral part of the community, but a livelihood for each family who runs the business and the people that they employ. This issue deeply resonates with me, considering I was a small business owner, a microscopic business owner. I had about 6 employees for 31 years, and I'm very familiar with the unique challenges that come with operating and maintaining a small business. Prior to being elected in the Senate in 2014, I opened the very first drive-through quick lube in the Mon Valley in 1988 called the Duke of Oil. I know you're humming it in your head. Duke of Oil. Okay, and you're welcome. You won't get that out of your head soon. I have experienced firsthand what it is like to go through difficult times and try to cover payroll during the slowest business periods of the year. This is why I know how important this legislation is in helping small, diverse, and veteran businesses to not only compete for state work, but also to grow and contribute to our economy. The goal of this legislation is simple: to provide an immediate and meaningful impact by expanding opportunities for these businesses to compete for and be utilized in state contracts. Of particular importance to note is that this legislation offers more flexibility regarding how a small business is defined. This will better align the Commonwealth with how the U.S. Small Business Administration defines small business, using standards by industry. Instead of asserting that the shop with 100 or more employees is too large to qualify, it takes a more realistic approach of setting industry-specific limits. So something that may have 100 employees at one time could have been considered a small business, but in that particular industry, it could be considered something totally different. As a result, this will open up a swath of new opportunities for diverse businesses that previously did not qualify for the program. I applaud the Department of General Services for the progress it has already made in its inclusion of small, diverse, and veteran businesses, as well as its commitment to do more through the advocacy for this vital legislation. In addition to updating the procurement process for small and diverse businesses, the legislation updates the program for our brave men and women who chose to serve in the United States Armed Forces. These individuals deserve our full support and assistance, particularly when they return home. Updating our procurement and military and veterans affairs codes to improve participation of veteran businesses is another way to show our commitment to the entrepreneurial efforts of the Commonwealth's veterans and the success of their businesses. Certainly, this legislation will better position our businesses in the Commonwealth and ultimately help us build stronger communities. I look forward to working with everyone who is here today to see that this gets to the governor's desk. And now I would very happily like to turn the mic over to Representative Jake Wheatley. Semper Fi.
Good morning, everyone. I want to take this opportunity to thank Governor Wolf, Secretary Topper, Deputy Secretary Kirkland, and all the folk from the administration for showing the vision and the leadership to really press forward on supporting our MBEs, WBEs, DBEs all across the Commonwealth. I think it's important that you highlight we can pass all the laws we want, but without great leadership, really pushing and working to implement those laws and those intentions of those laws, we will never get past the current point that we are in. So I want to thank you for that, Governor Wolf, and your whole team for making this a priority. I want to thank Senator Hughes and Senator Bartolotta and all of the folk in the other side of the house for their initiative, steadfastness, and Senator Hughes will tell you every time I wanted to do the annual MBE, WBE Day, he was always willing to partner, always willing to support. Even if he was rushing to do something else more important, he was always standing with us. So his commitment to that cause and this cause is something I'll always appreciate, and thank you, Senator, for your leadership. We can't do this by ourselves, and it's not a one party or partisan issue. When we support businesses, it takes all of us in this process to open it up. And I'm happy that in the House side of things, I've had a great committed partner who was energetic. She didn't need a lot of convincing. When I called her, she just got here. When I called her and said, hey, look, I'm looking for somebody on the Republican side to help me really open up opportunities for businesses across the Commonwealth, she jumped right in. So Representative Carrie Del Rosso, I want to say thank you for taking the leadership and running with this. And she is planning to have a counterpart to the bill introduced in the House. So I'm looking forward to supporting that. And all of my colleagues here from the House, Representative Parker, Representative Kim, Chairwoman Bullock, who you referring to? Who? Schusterman, where is Schusterman? Oh, I'm sorry. For all being here, because they could be any other place, but they want to show their support for this initiative. And look, I'm taking more time than I need to, and I'm not going to go into details, but I do think it's important that we give deference and acknowledgement where it's deserved. Because I told someone when I first got here in 2003, the work of paving the way for MBE was already started. Chairwoman Bullock, you might remember this name, Representative Gordon Linton. Gordon Linton back in the 1980s put on the table that MBEs, WBEs weren't getting their fair share of contracts across the Commonwealth. He initiated a select committee to look into this issue, to bring people forth, and to try to come up with some ideas of how we can change that. That was in the 1980s. Fast forward to 2003, when I came in, chairwoman of the Black Caucus at that point was Leanna Washington. Leanna Washington was working with then Treasurer, or Auditor General Casey, to look into this issue of MBEs and WBEs and what percentage was they getting as we were getting a new administration coming in that showed that we weren't getting our fair share. Fast forward to 2009, working with my Republican colleagues, we then tried to update Representative Litton's work to look into this process of WBEs and MBEs and where they getting their fair share. What I'm trying to tell you is never have we had our fair share of opportunities in this Commonwealth. Women, people of color, people who are disabled or disadvantaged in some form or fashion, and certainly not our veterans, ever got their fair share. That's why I give my credit to this administration, because they didn't just talk about it, they are pushing to be about it. We have an opportunity in this Commonwealth to open up our businesses and say welcome to anyone and everyone who want to do business. Doesn't matter if you're in Philadelphia or Pittsburgh or in between. You got a woman there somewhere trying to do her best to open up opportunities for her and her family. You got a military person somewhere in this Commonwealth trying to do something to open up opportunities for them and their families. And when you support them, then our economy is supported. You don't have to have all those programs to try to supplement them when you give them the opportunity to supplement themselves. So thank you again for having me here. This is just the beginning. This ain't a silver bullet. So if you're an entrepreneur looking out at this program and you think just because we passed this bill, somehow you are where you need to be, no, we're going to still have to do some more. But with this leadership, with this first step, we finally able to get this ball down the road a little bit. So I thank Gordon Linton. I thank Leanna Washington and all those people who supported this issue all the way into today. Because without their advocacy, their leadership, we wouldn't be here. So thank you, Governor, thank you all. And I'm looking forward to us coming back next year and saying we're not at 18%, we're at 30%. 18% is the floor. We don't know what the ceiling looks like, but so thank you for having us. I bring up my chairwoman, Donna Bullock from Philadelphia.
Thank you, Chairman Wheatley, and again, thank you to Governor Wolf and Secretary Topper and your teams for your commitment to diversity and inclusion in government contracting. We want to make sure that your best practices are codified in law, and that is why this legislation is particularly important. And I want to thank you particularly, Chairman Wheatley, for that historical context of how we got here. Because what I know is that there have been many folks before me who have laid down the groundwork to get where we are today. And as you mentioned, Chairman, there is still more steps to go. And the Black Caucus has been committed to creating opportunities for Black and brown small businesses long before I got here, and we continue to do that work. And we know that one space to do that is in government contracting. You know, we have talked about the systemic racist or systemic inequities and policies that have kept communities behind, and those same policies apply to small businesses as well. And in order for us to recover from this pandemic, Governor Wolf, we have to build a Commonwealth that creates opportunity in a way that reflects the diversity of this state. I surely believe that the Commonwealth not only being the biggest employer in this state, but it is also one of the largest entities in which small businesses can contract with. And here we have a place to do some level of priority on inclusion and growth for minority and women-owned businesses. We have that opportunity, and I believe an obligation to do that as legislators and as through the executive branch. Government spending on construction, goods, and services is a potential opportunity to advance economic inclusion for generations. But for generations, we have failed to do that. We have failed to contract with the businesses owned by people of color, by women, and other small, diverse business owners. These businesses are often locked out due to over-bureaucratic processes and sometimes nepotism. Those who look familiar or someone you are accustomed with or acquaintance with gets an opportunity over someone else. We have to remove those barriers, increase capacity, increase access to capital, and consider the effectiveness of policies that are already in place. Provide technical assistance where necessary, and facilitate mentoring opportunities for contractors. I believe all of these different ways in which we can assist small and diverse businesses can be accomplished through the changes outlined in the legislation that was put forth by my colleagues. And that is why the Pennsylvania Legislative Black Caucus will be standing with those colleagues and standing behind this legislation. We believe it is one of our largest number one priorities to getting done the work that we know needs to happen post-pandemic. Work that needed to happen before the pandemic, but even more so now, if we are looking to recover in a Commonwealth that is equitable and fair and creates opportunities for everyone, we need to make sure we include those small, diverse businesses, businesses owned by Black and brown folks, businesses owned by women and veterans, that they are included in that process and they're able to create wealth within their communities. Because if you look historically at how we created wealth in this country, in this Commonwealth in particular, a large swath of middle-class folks, white folks, were able to get there through government contracting, government jobs, and this is an opportunity that we can rectify some of those errors in the past and create wealth in those underserved communities. So I want to thank you again, Governor Wolf, Secretary Topper, Secretary Kirkland, who has already been named and praised, and I cannot reiterate enough how much appreciation we have for you, George Burrell, and all of the others who have laid the groundwork for this legislation. Thank you again, and now I will turn it back over to Secretary Topper. Or Kirkland, Deputy, yep, sorry.
Thank you. We're going to open up the press event for questions. Do we have any questions? Start over here.
Yeah, can I ask Senator Bartolotta a question?
Certainly.
Thank you. Brian with CBS 21 News. Have you had any discussions with your leadership team about this specific legislation, and were they receptive to those discussions, or when do you plan on having those discussions?
Well, today is the first time I've even seen a bill number for it. So Senate Bill 900, we're going to be repeating that number over and over and over again. So this is fresh out of the gate, and I know that this is something that is a priority to get done. And I'll be having a leadership meeting, because I am in the leadership team for the Senate, and we'll be discussing it this afternoon. So I can follow up with you.
Thank you. That's perfect.
You got it.
I think we had a question here.
Yes, this is for Governor Wolf. This is Dennis Owen's question, off topic.
Okay, go ahead.
There's a March for Life rally today at the Capitol. Dennis would like to know, are you concerned that the Republican-controlled legislature will try to push more restrictive abortion laws, and what is your message to them?
I'm not concerned. If they do, I'll veto those pieces of legislation. Let me just follow up on a comment that Senator Bartolotta made. This really ought to be a bipartisan bill. I know when folks talk about bipartisanship, it's something that's sort of almost a throwaway line, but this really is. I mean, we're trying to make the free market work the way it's supposed to work. The free market does not work with frictions, with discrimination, with unlevel playing fields. We all benefit when everybody can play. The discipline is in the consumers making their choice. If we don't give them the choices, if that market does not present all the choices that they need to have, the market's not working well. So this really ought to be, but it's not a partisan issue. It's not bipartisan. It shouldn't be partisan at all. We need to do what we can to make the market work better, and this is one really important thing. So, sorry, I digress.
Any other questions? Yes.
Governor, since we've opened the door to off-topic questions.
Dennis Owen opened the door to off-topic questions.
I was wondering, do you think Representative Boyle should resign in light of his arrest this past weekend?
Yeah, I do. I think he ought to resign, and I think everybody deserves to treatment for mental illness. And he deserves to go through that treatment. I think while he's going through that treatment, he should not serve in the legislature.
Governor Wolf, I have an off-topic question too, if you can believe it. So there was just a big hearing from House Republicans on election legislation. Look, that's going to be on the agenda again. Have you talked to Republican leaders about what you're willing to sign? And also, over the summer, you seem to indicate that you might sign voter ID in some form. And would you sign a bill that has voter ID in it?
Yeah, let me. We are in conversations, and there are things that I think county commissioners have been talking about, expanding the pre-canvassing period, things like that. What I said this summer was that I'm against voter suppression. That's a non-starter for me. If your bill, for whatever reason, has something in there that I think suppresses the vote, I'm not going to be for it. I'll veto it, as I did House Bill 1300. Is there something out there with something that somebody calls voter ID that might be acceptable and not be voter suppression? Maybe. I'm willing to have a conversation. But I am not, absolutely, I am against anything that suppresses the vote.
So have you taken a look at like Senate or House proposals yet on like specific, I mean, you looked at the legislation, the Senate or House, there's like a Senate bill that's mostly for canvassing focused, the House has their new 1800.
There are a number of, I think there's a rehash for 1300. I was against it then. I'm still against it. I haven't seen that there's any change. There's some other things that are out there, and we have our own proposals, and I talked to the county commissioners, for example. They are looking for some help, which I, for the most part, support the kinds of things that they want to do. So, yeah, I mean, we're talking, so far there hasn't been anything that meets all my criteria. Yeah, Jan.
The pandemic, and nearly 28,000 kids have tested positive since mid-August, school-age kids, and I was just wondering, are you concerned about that? Do you feel that the masking order is not doing enough, and are you contemplating anything else, like possibly asking school districts to consider moving to hybrid instruction?
I'm not considering anything else. I think it might be too early to see what the cause is. But I think you bring up the reason I think it's important. The vaccine is the strategy for Pennsylvania. We have a vaccine, and Pennsylvania is top of the charts when it comes to the vaccine. Actually, when it's 65 and older population, we're #1 in the country. I think we're number 9th in the country overall in terms of first doses. We need to do better with fully vaccinated people, but we're doing very well. And if you look within Pennsylvania, the counties that have done best with vaccines are the ones that have the lowest number of cases. The problem is that if you're below the age of 12, you can't get the vaccine. So what do we do? And the vaccine's our strategy. If you're under 12, you can't get the vaccine, and we need to have our kids back in the classroom. I think, hybrid learning was something that most school districts did to a certain extent or a complete extent last year. And it was a tough year for teachers and for kids and for parents. So I would like to do everything I can to keep our kids in the classroom, keep them safe, to have teachers and staff, bus drivers, everybody be willing to come to work and feel safe doing that. And in the absence of the vaccine, this is the best we can do. Masking, good ventilation, social distancing, those things. And again, the masking is only indoors. Carrie, did you want to say anything else?
Do we have any other questions? Well, let me say this in closing. Senator Hughes touched on it, Senator Wheatley touched on it as well, but I would absolutely cannot let this press conference end without giving thanks to Governor Wolf and Secretary Topper. When we started this program, I think Secretary Topper did the first empirical analysis on SDB spend. I think we were somewhere around 3.8%. This year, Governor, we're going to probably exceed the 12% mark just in SDB alone. And the other thing, I would absolutely be remiss if I didn't acknowledge our staff at BDSBO. We got one of the most professional, diligent staff anywhere in the country, led by Lisa Sanford and Mary Fox, who pretty much serves as our general counsel. They've done a remarkable job with BDSBO. And with the help of George Burrell and our advisory council, it's been a partnership that's absolutely been fantastic. Senator Wheatley, the work that you've done over the years has just been absolutely fantastic. It reminded me, Senator Hughes and I have been working on this for 40 years, literally over 40 years. Thank you for everything that you've done up to this point. This is truly an historic day. I thank you for being here, and hopefully with the support of you and the sponsors and back of us, we'll get this legislation passed. Thank you very much.